this is an entire overview. So we are looking at a global cashew kernel market in 2026. What are the trends and which are the opportunities that you can use and spot? Also moderating this session for us is from Orion Agribid Group, Mr. Ashok Narayanan, inviting Ashok ji onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, these are pretty much your final applauses for this year. So let's be generous with them. Our speakers are Mr. Yoshiyuki Kamiyama from Blaxton Corporation. Also inviting on stage Mr. Safwan Akrin of Jameel International Foodstuff. Mr. Shaji Matthew from Spring Valley is also yet another panelist up here. Mr. Khusrav Radzhabov from MasterFoods LLC is very welcome on the stage. Mr. Jardin Zhou of Squirrels Incorporated joining us next. So Mr. Jardin is online with us. And then we have Mr. Wouter from Monchy Food Company. Welcome, sir. Let's have you on the stage. And of course, yet again, from OFI, we have Mr. Jayant Babani. I leave this session in the hands of Mr. Ashok Narayanan. Ladies and gentlemen, right after this, we shall do a summation and conclusion of the conference. Let me at this point remind you, you are all aware the checkout time from the hotel is 12 o'clock. Please ensure that you check out in time. Your luggage is already at the bell desk, lest your access to the room be denied to you. So please ensure that that is also being taken care of. Over to Ashok, sir.
Thank you, Ruchika. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last and hopefully the most interesting session of this conference. The entire business that we've discussed over the last day and a half, 2 days, multiple sessions, RCN, government, et al., is all flowing down to this. The kernel market, what's happening in this market, you've seen Jayant say that the US market was down 24% on North American market. Whilst China went up 40, the Middle East is up 18, India's again up for sure. What is it that makes this market so resilient? You know, despite the Trumps, despite tariffs, despite war, I've got Khusrav from Russia here. Consumption's growing, it's not come down. The Middle East, with all the disruption, with all the problems, consumption is growing. So cashews are a very popular nut. They're very well liked. And all these people here on stage are people that are making the growth of this business happen. From Olam, from Wouter in Europe. So we've got a mix of the old and the new. We've got the US, which has gone down. We've got Europe, which I think is flat to a little up. We've got the Middle East. We've got both Mr. Shaji from Spring Valley. We've got Safwan from Al Jameel. These are leaders in this market. So they're going to share their wisdom and their thoughts on how this market is developing, what the genesis is, and how we're going to go forward and continue to grow. Somebody said to me a couple of months ago, cashews are probably the most undervalued of all premium tree nuts at $3.25 on average per pound for W320s. What is it that's going to, make consumption stay or grow, and possibly, as Sun was saying, at slightly higher prices, so that everybody in the value chain is happy with, being in this business. More people come into the bathroom, and few people leave the bathroom. So, they'll all stay here, and we see this industry grow. So we'll start with one of the old traditional markets, Wouter from Monchy Foods, old friend of mine. He will present the challenges, opportunities, and the current scenario in the European market. Wouter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wouter, honored to be here in front of you, representing the company Monchy Food Company, founded in 1851. 1851, so I think one of the oldest companies here in this room. Monchy is not known, I think, by you as a name or as a brand, but it owns several companies in the nut and dried fruit sector in Europe. We have Rumveld, Winter en Konijn, Notenbeurs, Food Trend, but also a brand like Nutisal is owned by us. Besides that, we have a factory in Tanzania, a cashew factory, so that's an interesting one. And that's also, let's say, my role. Some people say, what are you managing? I'm managing expectations, because the expectations in Europe, and that's also why I'm here, and also in the end I will say something about my recommendations if you want to enter the European market, to do that the right way. Managing expectations is one of the most important things there. I would like to take you through several points, 5 points: the global landscape, European demand, segments and innovations, carbon footprint, and how to enter Europe. Let's start with the global overview. By the way, I got the message from Ashok that I need to keep it within 5 minutes or 6 minutes max. So I tried it up front, and then I realized that it was 12 minutes. So sometimes I will use a shortcut somewhere. We all know here that there is a disbalance between where cashews are grown and where they are processed. For the exports to Europe from Vietnam, they still need to use 78% of African RCN. If we look more close into the European market, we see several big target markets. The numbers are from 2024, from the Dutch government. In the end, you will see, I will give you an overview of all the sources we used here. Netherlands is by far the biggest and the leading country there. First, because we eat a lot of cashews, but mainly because of the port of Rotterdam. A lot of cashews are re-exported to other countries in Europe. Going to Germany, which is traditionally a very important country for the business, mainly because of their huge private label sector. And if we see some trends, we see that they are moving more and more to organic cashews. And not only cashews, by the way, that's also a trend in other nuts. Looking into France, France is third, fast-growing demand, but mainly for sustainable cashews and fair trade. I think that is something that's representative for the whole industry in the EU. I will come to that later. Looking into the UK, UK is an interesting market. It's totally different. They have, we all know that, or most of you, some very big traders over there. It's difficult to enter that market from outside. And they have an fast increasing demand for vegan and dairy alternatives. So they are the innovator in Europe. If we look more close into the difference between the ingredient sector and the snack sector, we use the same numbers from this Dutch governmental organization. As you can see, there's 10% ingredient segment and 90% snack segment. I think it's not the whole story. It depends on how you see ingredients. For example, when you are using a spotted kernel and you're coating it or with chocolate or with a flavor or whatever, is it a snack industry or is it ingredient industry? Tell me. So I think it's more close to, if we look into the use of dairy, milk, cheese, these kind of new innovations, it's more close to 30% to 70%. What we see in the snack industry is that there are some trends. People are using more of less salt than before, and a lot of cashews are dry roasted nowadays. We see on the shelves in the supermarkets more and more dry roasted, and that's highlighted. There are some studies whether that's more healthy for people, because the first thing you could say is that it's more healthy. It's not that sure yet, but let's leave it up to the end consumers. As long as they buy it, we have more possibilities to sell our cashews. In the ingredient segment, you see a lot of changes. The drivers for this demand is health and nutritional awareness, a lot of plant-based products, vegan diets, and sustainable and ethical sourcing. This is a huge trend in Europe. In the past, I'm receiving a sample of every load that arrives in the Netherlands on my desk, and sometimes I'm taking that home. And my kids in the past, I have 4 kids, they always ask me, Dad, can you roast it at home? Because we like it, and it's roasted and salted, and we have fresh roasted and salted cashews in the kitchen. Nowadays, I have 2 boys who are almost 2 meters, maybe because of this health trend. But nowadays, they are asking for raw cashews or raw almonds to put into their yogurt or other purposes. So, because it fits better in their diet. Yeah, I think we all know this part. There is a pressure on also from the Green Deal, from the government with CSRD, to be more aware of CO2 reduction. And I think Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire is the best example there, because if we look at the European or the Dutch market, I think that the route from Ivory Coast direct to Europe is so much shorter and easier. And as long as Mr. Trump won't have any new tax regulations for Vietnamese cashews into USA, I think this will continue. Then sustainability. The trend in Europe is definitely to have a more sustainable focus. In the past, let's say 20 years ago, when we were buying or we were talking with a new cashew processor, the first thing, or we were already happy when they had a HACCP certification. 10 years ago, let's say it was BRC was a requirement. Now, the first question I ask to a new supplier, are you SMETA certified? So that's a huge change in the industry. And we see that with the customers too, because 47, so almost 50% of the German customers are willing to pay more for sustainable or for brands that improve society and environment. Then some recommendations if you want to go into this, into the EU market. I think the most important there is that you manage the expectations, that you know your customer. We, for example, in the group have 2 companies. One is Rumveld, Winter and Konijn, which is a very high-end industrial supplier, well known in Europe. And we have Notebeurs. Both are BRC certified. Both are very quality-minded, but in a different way. Rumveld, so the high-end industrial supplier, is they need to have their paperwork done. So they need to have all the certifications, etc. But they are, I won't say less, but less quality-minded in the way of the feel and touch and the taste of the nut. While Notebeurs is a supplier for specialty shops in the European market, and especially in the Netherlands, and they are very quality-minded in a way that they sell, for example, the 180s, which will never go to Rumveld because they are buying the pieces or the splits. So there is a difference, and if you don't know how to approach your customer because you don't know the goal they have with the product they receive, it will be a very tough one. And if you are open and transparent and about this, also about issues, then I think you can build up a long-term partnership. But it's not something to run away from, because in Europe we need to have, if you want to manage the expectations, you need to have this long-term relation and you need to build it. But be honest and transparent. That's my recommendation for the European market. Those are some references and sources we used. It's nice for you if you want to look deeper into it. And I want to say Thanks to Gabriela, my colleague who prepared this presentation, and thanks to you for listening.
Wouter, thank you. So we've got some people going to enter Europe on your recommendations. You can call Wouter, he'll guide you in person. Going next for us is, for me, it's a new market, but a resilient market. We'll go to Khusrav Radzhabov from the Russian and CIS markets.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all welcome you all to this session. And I want to say thank you for the invitation and all organization today. My name is Khusrav Radzhabov from MasterFoods company based in Moscow, Russia. Just a quick note, I love the Dubai in this period of the time because right now in Dubai +20, and right now in Moscow -20. So now you can feel the differences. But anyway, I will try to do our session more warmer by our presentation today. So MasterFoods is a strategic partner in Russia and CIS country. We are the ambassador of INC as well. So our goal is mastership, expertise, and leadership. We have experienced more than 26 years in this market with 8 food categories, which includes nuts, dried fruit, confectionery, fish, canned foods, seeds, cereals, ingredients for baby, and coffee. We're #1 importer in nuts and dried fruit, and #3 in canned food with more than 1,000 employees. And we do directly import from 30 countries from all over the world with 100,000 tons of annual import direct and 300 million pieces. So we call our CIS neighbor countries as a strategically important expansion markets, which you can see on the map. It's 10 more countries, which we are going to be there in the coming 5 years. So for us, the strategic partners, they are the leading FMCG companies in federal chains. We implement a large-scale project with the largest international companies like Nestle, PepsiCo, Mars, Unilever, Mondelez, Danone, and of course, big giant Russian chains. We are the #1 private label partner in nuts and dried food for leading retailers. And as I guess you can see on the presentation, there are some products which you can find in your market as well. So we say that the emotion is the key sales driver, your result is our target. So MasterFoods brand lead the market. As you can see, we have the 4 main brands, which calls Nature Food, Snack and Go, Glories, and Botanica. And by the way, Botanica is the #1 brand in Russia as well. So if you talk a little bit about the Russian consumer for nuts and dried fruit, here you can see that 76% buy for snacking, 52% buy for personal consumption, 61% purchase in a small next to home outlet, 19% refuse to buy if there is no favorite brand, and less than 90 grams is for snack consumption. For the top criteria choosing for the dried and night fruits, you can see here is the #1 is quality and then the price. I just want to pay attention here that in the past, recently, mainly our market was focusing on the price, but now the market is transforming and now they're changing more to the quality. So for our consumption now is the quality is #1. And even if you talk about the top criteria for snack, you can see the taste, so which is again coming back to the quality. So our target audience consider themselves as an expert, as you can see, and for them is to having a window on the package is important to judge the quality, and they are ready to pay more and more for the quality. And of course, the previous experience is also very important for them for the repurchase. So if you talk more now about the cashew value, so you can here see that there is a top 10 nuts and dried fruit dynamic for the last 2 years. So the cashew is the #3 value with a 9% share, which has a most important 34% growth. But here I just also want to emphasize your attention that we have mixes, the #4. So in the mixes nowadays, using a cashew is also getting very popular. And this database is taking from the 12 key retail chains in Russia, which is making up about, I think, 40% of the whole Russian market share. And if we talk about the volume for the cashew, here you can again see that there is a huge potential with a 5% share and 16% growth. And again, but if you look to the #3, the mixes, I want to again pay attention that in the mixes, we use a lot of cashew as well. So if you talk about the MasterFoods and cashew, so we are the leader with the 41% value share in the market. And in the last 2 years, you can see that we grow in the cashew in the direct import for 42%. And our brand Botanica with the cashew is the market leader with 29%. And here you can see the other retail chains and the companies which also using in the cashew. I just want to say that we also do for them the private label and also exclusive private label too. So coming back to the potential of the cashew and the expansion, we're working on this. We are the federal chains and other channels, and here you can see the top 2 biggest retail chains, which has more than 20,000 stores, and the presence of the cashew here is very high. And I just want to say that you can see another biggest retail chain, which has more than 31,000 stores, but unfortunately the presence of the cashew is not so big. So our target, our mission is to increase our presence and the presence of the cashew in this whole retail chain. So we say MasterFoods leads a key the cashew trend in our brand and for the private labels. So here what we were talking about, the mixes. So you can see the mixed cashew is growing, and we also, our R&D department is creating a lot of flavors and tests. You can see the salty and spicy cashew is also hyping, the caramelized cashew, and also gifted assorted formats is also getting popular. And here I just also want to say that the e-commerce in Russia is also getting very famous nowadays. The platforms for the e-commerce getting too much popular. Nowadays people unfortunately getting lazy and they don't want to buy everything sitting from the home. They have to go outside. So these private labels, as you can see, is mainly selling for the e-commerce platforms. So the last but not the least, I just want to say about our cashew expansion plan. So we build the cashew category and consumption culture in the focused market. So we share expertise with the federal chain top and quality management about the cashew category specifics and AFI standards. So we organize training with the audit session for the key partners on a regular basis. And I just want to say that we are also in a very close contact with the Vina Control, Cafe Control, and Vina Casa as well from Vietnam in order to increase the category of the cashew quality standard in the Russian market. So we plan to invest dramatically into the cashew consumption growth within the strategic expansion market, which includes 11 countries, including Russia, in order to drive penetration, knowledge, and consumption within the partners and end customers. So according to our expectation, by 2030, the population of these 11 countries is going to be plus 260 million, so which will drive us to put the series and the high-level targets. And by 2030, our target is to approach 18,000 tons of the cashew kernels, which you can see on the chart. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, I'm welcome. Thank you.
Khusrav, thank you very much. Good to hear that the population will grow and cashew consumption with it. Thanks for that. Staying in the same time zone, we're going to move on to the Middle East, GCC. We have got Safwan from Al Jameel. He will do a presentation, and then we'll have Mr. Shaji of Spring Valley, a large trader, following Safwan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing this opportunity and being part of the World Cashew Conference. Today I will be going with you through the GCC, especially Saudi market, cashew kernel, going over the demand and consumption behavior. Saudi Arabia represents a high-value import reliant cashew market with accelerating consumption driven by population scale, premium and food industry expansion. Demand is increasing based on quality focus, favoring premium kernels and consistent supply. Here in the graph, if we look, we can see the growth of import cashew kernel through the past 4 years with the constant increase between 15 to 20%. We're reaching to 17,000 metric ton in 2024. And with a continuous growth of 2025, but official data is still not based out. From the 17,000 metric ton, we can see the exporting countries share, which is mainly going to Vietnam, India, and African origin cashew. We see an increase in the recent year in the import of African cashew origin, and the shift towards that. And we mainly, the market based on 320 and 240, which is represents 60 to 70% of the imported volume. The growth and consumption in Saudi Arabia is being driven by many factors. Mostly is by the population scale and the small geographic map, raising the disposable income and premium food demand. Also the shift and the trend for the young generation for the snacking and healthy food. 70% of the market's still going through the traditional channels, which is traditional small roasteries, going through the counter sales and malls, hypermarkets, along with the premium snacking brands and etc. The common use in our region is happening still for the snacking and retail, supermarkets, private label, and premium bags. Also is driven by the hospitality of our region and food service and food manufacturing. But part of this growth we see in Saudi Arabia is driven by the vision of 2030, which is opening up the country for a new tourism, as being a new tourism hub, and localizing the food industry in Saudi Arabia. Also, I will go slightly over the UAE market. We continue with the growth, but unfortunately in 2025 and recently, we see instability in geopolitical situation, which is affecting the supply chain overall. And as we know, UAE is the trade hub for the region, covering maybe some to 5 to 10 countries of re-exporting the product to other regions. We experienced the Iranian war in June, which has created less market confidence and cash flow restrictions, disturbing the logistics in the region. But overall, we still see the growth of importing in cashew and demand. We think there is always possibility to maintain and sustain this growth in the demand and consumption in cashew. Requires a new innovation of the market, not just based as whole kernel, innovation in the byproduct of cashew for like paste, flour, etc. Also, possible ways to develop the demand and increase the consumption is the relationship between origin suppliers and importers should be not just based on price and volume, should be based on strategic market insights, reports, export reports, and where is the long-term perspective of demand, and what is the strategy of the entire industry, where create an understanding between suppliers and importers, and where is the vacuum of the market if there's shortage. And I think that will allow to increase and sustain the demand in the region. Thank you very much.
Safwan, thank you very much. From that overview of the overall GCC market, we move to a slightly different format. No slides, no data, just raw talk with Shaji of Spring Valley. They're one of the largest importers and traders in the UAE, Dubai market. They deal with very, very difficult markets like Iran, for example, where the Iranian currency is now at 1.1 million real to the US dollar. And these are traders that sell to these markets, and they manage the risk, they manage the demand, and yet with all these problems, with all the uncertainty, the instability, the randomness, they continue to grow this business, they continue to survive in this business and grow. I mean, to me, this is it's a sterling quality. So I'm going to just have a conversation with Shaji. I said to him, look, lots of data, lots of presentations, lots of slides. This we will have a conversation about what you think are the challenges that you face in your everyday business, bringing cashews into the Middle East, into the UAE, in the sales, in what are the opportunities and what are the solutions to the challenges that you face today. Shaji, I'll let you have a few words and then we can have a...
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Shaji Matthew from Spring Valley. We are traders and manufacturers of different items. So cashew is one of our items. We are just trading. So we started our companies and factories in 1998 onwards. We are trading a lot of items like almonds, nuts, spices, and manufacturers of pulses and lentils. So coming to the point, Mr. Ashok told me there is only 3 minutes for me. That is why I didn't prepare any slides for you. I'm sorry for that. And coming to again to the cashew industries, the global cashew kernel market has been expanding steadily, and the Middle East also has emerged as one of the fastest growing cashew trading regions. Within the landscape of UAE plays unique and strategic role, not just as a consumer market, but as a regional trading distribution hub to the cashew kernels. That is an important thing for the UAE. We are not importing not only for UAE market, but as a hub for exporting to different regions, especially MENA regions and other areas. The MENA and Turkey region accounts approximately 11% of the global cashew kernel consumption and among the fastest growing globally, with around 25% growth in 2025 than 2024 and 15% in 5-year CAGR. The global cashew consumption in 2025 is estimated approximately 80,640 containers, out of which MENA and Turkey region consumed 9,980 containers. There is an important thing is that the shift in supply source from India to Vietnam and Africa. Traditionally, these areas were the biggest consumers of Indian cashews. In last 5 to 6 years, there is a big shift from Indian cashews to Vietnam and African cashews because of the many different reasons. The main reason is the pricing and the immediate availability. Many reasons are there, but still some premium buyers are preferring these Indian cashews because of the high quality. So the quality of cashews, sometimes we are getting UAE market, we are getting from the Vietnam, sometimes from some lower quality factories are not exactly good for our market. That is why still some premium buyers, premium sectors are preferred these Indian cashews. The local consumption versus re-export in the UAE. UAE cashew kernels imports serve 3 main purposes. The one is local, retail and hospitality consumption. Second one is industrial and food services use. And third one is regional re-exports. While Vietnam has become the dominant supplier by volume, it is important to note that the quality perceptions have not shifted at the same pace. Indian cashew kernels continue to be regarded by many Middle Eastern buyers as superior in quality attributes. To conclude, the UAE occupies a big role, a pivotal position in Middle Eastern cashew trade, functioning as both a major import destination and regional distribution hub. Rising consumption across the Middle East combines with shifts in global supply towards Vietnam and Africa has reshaped the trade flows through the UAE. However, the quality considerations, particularly continued preference for Indian kernels in premium segments, remains highly relevant. So, for the next year, for the 2026, we are expecting more consumption, more import, and around 2030, we are expecting around 15% of the world cashews to be imported the UAE. That is very important number, and this will help the cashew exporters to concentrate. And one of the main thing, most of the raw cashew tradings are also doing in the Middle East. Everybody has offices in the Dubai, so they are all concentrating in this area. Along with that, cashew kernels also, we are one of the biggest importer of cashew kernels. First one is China, and second one is USA, and third one is UAE. Thank you very much.
Shaji, thank you very much. There'll be a Q&A session after we've done with all the presentations, in which everybody can ask questions. I'm sure there's lots of them. We now go to Jayant. He'll present the US market for us, We've been talking about the growth markets so far. We've talked about Europe stable, Russia growing, Middle East growing very well, USA dropping. Maybe Jayant will shed some light on why and how that could be remedied, apart from Trump, of course.
Let's probably talk about a different market. So we have talked about China, which is a growth story today. But we'll probably look at a market which is more mature today. We have seen how US has been over the last few years. And we'll probably talk a little bit about how it's been till today and what do we expect in the next year. So a lot of numbers, but if you look at the core of it, US imports kind of came down by almost 24%. And that's a reality, but if you look at 23 to 24, there was a growth of 24% as well. So 24 being a year with major record imports is probably an outlier in all of this. And if you look at the last 5 years CAGR, it's standing at around 4 to 5%. So if you don't take 2024 into account, the market was anyway going at 4 to 5%. Last year was an anomaly because of everything which happened between April to October. The tariffs going to 20, coming back to 10, then again going back to 20, and then finally becoming 0. That has kind of played a lot of role into all that. But overall, the market was still going at 4 to 5%. And that's something which we are going to continue to see. So I don't expect that, this kind of thing which has happened over last year continues. But there are a few factors at play. And I think that's something which is going to dominate how US looks at cashews going forward. If you look at the overall supply which is going into US, completely dominated by Vietnam today. So almost 89% of what goes into US comes from Vietnam. And the critical factor, if you look at all of this, is that whatever has happened, Vietnam has kind of maintained its share as far as the US imports are concerned. So that share has not come down, although the overall volume has come down in last year. Let's probably look a little bit at global cashew consumption. China was the biggest buyer last year, but of course, US, all is not done and gloomy, but it was still the second largest buyer. After all that has happened, where the consumption came down, and we saw the volumes kind of shrinking, but it still maintained its second position. If you look at the overall market share, it was hovering around 19% last year. So everything which is produced in the world, almost 20% was going into US. Last year was the first year where it came down to almost 15. And 15 is US and Canada included. If you look at only US, it will be probably around 11 to 12%. All that happening, all of that decline and everything which has happened, but there have been growth stories as well, right? So Middle East is probably a growth story. China is a bigger growth story. But I think what has happened in US is not all down to the consumption coming down. So this is something which we track. This is the US snack nut sales. Now, if you look at the snack nut sales over here, they were only down by 9% last year. Now, the number which you see 24% down, that's on imports, but that kind of now correlates to the number, the import number being very high in 24. So there were some inventories available in US, and that's what got consumed in the first half, in the 6 months of the year, and that's why you only see the US snack consumption down by 9%. So 24% looks like a big number, but if you look at the overall snack nut sale which came down, it was only 9% or so. I'll probably talk a little bit about the shelf pricing. So we have talked a lot about how nobody's making money, but at the end of the day, the shelf pricing, if you look into US, it still continued where it was. So the snack nut shelf prices have not come down over the years, and that's something which is something which we have to look at, but that's kind of holding the consumption down. US has had a rough year last year. There are a lot of people who are now only spending on essentials. They want to hold back on any discretionary spend. And that's being felt across the board. So it's not just cashews or tree nuts. It's being felt across the board. All the retailers in US, they've had their sales down. And that's a factor which is also playing into cashews now. So that 9% which is there, it's there across categories. So any discretionary spend, the US buyers have become very careful. What happens next year? That's a question I probably cannot answer today, because if the whole tariff situation has to change, then this could look very, very different. But as of today, what we can see clearly is that the last year imports were down, but this year probably will be an year of redemption, because since October, November, the Vietnam, which is almost 90% of market share, the tariffs have come down to zero on the raw kernels, although on the roasted kernels, there's still a 20% tariff, but the raw kernels coming down to zero. So that's going to help in terms of the volumes kind of picking up again. But I think one factor I think which is a little bit of worry is a lot of value add now again moving into US, because given that 20% tariff is there today, a lot of roasting, salting, and everything which was getting done at origins is again going to back to US. So your volume kind of comes back, but probably the value addition which you were doing is going to shift into US. So that's probably something which we need to be careful about. But I think market which has continued at 4-5%, we expect that the market will bounce back. So the number which we are seeing of 20% down, I think there's going to be a recovery. We'll probably see the number again going up by 15% or so. And that's something where this market can continue. So we have seen that the last 5-6 years, it's been very, very stable. And I think there's going to be another regime, or there's going to be another paradigm shift where that kind of momentum comes back. And we continue to see 5-6% growth every year. All that having been said, if Mr. Trump makes any more changes, this could look very, very different. But as of today, this is what the reality is. And I think US is probably on the way to bounce back. And I think it will probably compete with China for the first spot again next year. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jayant. Lots of information. And there's hope yet for the US markets by the looks of it. I was just thinking to myself that there's never been one non-present person who's talked about as much as Mr. Trump is. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Trump. Okay, we now go from the market that has dropped 25% in volume to the market that's grown 40% in volume last year. We have Jardin Zhou from 3 Squirrels in China. He couldn't make it in person due to family commitments. He's joining us online from Wuhu City in China. And I'll let him take us through what made China the most important and the fastest growing market last year. Jardin, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm excited to share some data from our 3-year cashew kernel nuts import data. Let's dive into the numbers. They tell a story of the shifting market, the supply channel strategies, and evolved global partnerships. First, we can see the import volume. It seems like stability. First, let's look at how much the China imported. Over 3 years, our annual cashew nut import hovered around 21,000 tons. And VS 2023 to 2024, that has a 5% decrease. But VS 2025 to 2024, it had a slight recovery, but still below 2023. Why there's no dramatic sugar or collapse? This stability suggests consistent demand for the cashew kernel nuts in China market. And we can see the price. Now the average import price per kilogram, VS 2023, 2024 to 2025, the price is increased every year. And that's 8% increase over past 3 years. But why? It could be reflected rising production cost in original countries, or maybe stronger global demand, or even currency. Either way, we can see an affordable cashew nuts, cashew kernel, are becoming a thing of the past. Here, the picture seems like where the China cashew nuts come from. And in 2023, Vietnam is the biggest supplier to China, and the percentage of Vietnam is more than 98. But in 2025, Vietnam's share fell further to 62, and some country just like from Africa, just like Cote d'Ivoire and Tanzania, had becoming our second largest supplier. This isn't just a number change. I think it's a strategic shift. We moved from putting all eggs in one basket to building a kind of supplier chain. And I think it has admin to the China. Why does this matter? I think first is we can afford the risk of the one channel. If one country faces export bans or natural disaster, we have other channel to supply for China. And more supplier maybe means better negotiation power on price and quality. And for the global partnership, we are not just importer cashew kernel nut. We are building a relationship with emerging markets like Cote d'Ivoire and Tanzania. For example, Cote d'Ivoire rise from 1% in 2023 to 30% in 2025. Why Cote d'Ivoire rise so fast in 2 years? That's a testament to successful trade agreement.
Okay, Jardin, thanks for that. I think with the audio being a little unclear, these pictorials are very, very depictive, and they shout at us. So I think Vietnam's got to watch out. Congratulations, Cote d'Ivoire, well done. I think what we need to... I see the audience is very receptive. All right. The thing is that what this tells us is that Cote d'Ivoire has got a import duty of 7% in China. There has been a presidential announcement that they're going to do away with the import duty of 7%. The announcement was made in June last year for all 53 countries in Africa. But I heard from the Chinese government official here from CFNA that it has not been made into law yet. So the customs at the ports don't have the notification yet because of bilateral negotiations still underway. But we've got to keep in mind that this is a market, as Jayant said in his China presentation, the per capita consumption is 1/4 that of India. And if Africa is giving them the quality that they need, which can, approach Indian quality, and there is no import duty, I can only see this thing going one way, which is up. So that's something to be mindful about. We will now move on to the last but not the least. I have Yoshiyuki Kamiyama from Japan, one of the oldest bastions of Indian cashews. So if it is not for Shaji, Safwan, and Yoshi, Indian cashew exports would not even be the 29,000 tons it is. So one of the last bulwarks of standing or supporting Indian cashews is Japan. I'll let Yoshi take us through the journey of what is happening in Japan now, last few years, and what's the future looking like.
So thank you very much for inviting me to the WCC session. This is my first participation of this WCC. And thanks for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Yoshi Kamiyama. I've been involved in the nuts industry, Japanese nuts industry, for many years as an importer and distributor. So we have imported the kernels, the cashews to Japan. Let me show you the tendency of the Japanese import statistics of the every 2 years first. Our market has imported approximately total about 75,000 to 80,000 metric ton of the every tree nuts as a total annually. Among them, the biggest imported nuts is almond, which is about 37 to less than 40,000 metric ton in a year. Next large import tree nuts is walnuts. That is 18 to 19,000 metric ton. And the third largest is, this is cashews, which is 12 to 13,000 metric ton. There is our market in Japan. So, but that figure is comparing with 10 years ago, the cashew quantity is almost double. About 10 years ago, that figure was about 7,000 metric ton. So we can see, the overall our market is a stable market, not mature market. However, for cashews, slightly increasing. That is Japan's cashew kernel import, 2024 and 2025. So you can recognize most of the cashews import from Vietnam and India. Historically, our market have the long history and the relationship with Indian suppliers, mostly from India all the time. However, in these days, the good advantage of the geographically location of Vietnam, and also since 2020, during the COVID issues, the Vietnam processors can avoid the restriction. That's why our market expects the consistent supply from Vietnam. That's why in these days, we have imported more from Vietnam. This pie chart is what usage is for the every tree nuts. The representative, almond, walnuts, and the cashews. The cashews is more consumed as for the snack and table nuts. That figure is 10 years ago more than 60%. Today is 45%. That means our usage is more expanded, diversified. The older time, most of the consumption is snacking with alcohol or the beers or something. But in these days, thanks to the health-oriented and more health-cautious of especially ladies, that supported contributing such multiple usage. So, and also thanks to the vegetable proteins and alternatives used for the dairy products, that helps us contribute these figures. So Japanese current market, I'll tell you is that Japanese market is a mature but the premium-oriented market, which you may aware, Japanese people, the volume is not big. However, we are afford to pay the good premium for the higher quality. So still, they keep every manufacturers, that they are considering the high quality but the high prices, the low prices but the regular quality. The comparing with them, the high-end demand is still existent. That is good for the final yield is better than the regular one. So that's why they are afford to pay. As I mentioned, we don't have any cracking the sorting lines in the Japanese operations. Just only the roasting and the final retail products packing. So that's why we are counting on your supply. That's very critical for the Japanese market. And the challenge is, our Japanese request is the high quality means white color kernel or the low moisture content or those good qualities are very important. This time, this first participations, I recognized even the Ivory Coast and other West African crop, you are producing not only the LCN, but the final products. So we'd like to look at the future. I'd like to talk about the more such final products with West African Cashews Alliance. So thank you very much for the meeting, this presentation.
Yoshi, thank you very much. What I'm sure the suppliers are all very mindful of is he said something very important. We want quality, we want delivery, we want white kernels, we want premium, and he said we will pay for it. Now this is a uniquely Japanese thing. The Americans also want top quality. Monchy, I'm sure, would love top quality, but how many countries, how many buyers, how many customers are willing to pay for what they want? Japan has stood out in this aspect for as long as I've been in the business, which is over 4 decades. So I think as a takeaway for new supply sources, Cote d'Ivoire, other countries in Africa, if you are doing quality, you're paying attention to what the customers want, Japan is a market that will pay you for the trouble you're taking. Thanks, Yoshi. So this concludes the presentation part of this session. I will now leave this to the audience to come up with questions. You can ask any of these people. You can ask Jardin, who's sitting in China, and we will answer what we can. Jayant, in the US market, price increase in pistachios and cashews, understandable, but why the price increase in almonds, okay?
Yeah, I think we are in a cashew conference, but okay, I'll anyway take this. The price increase for almonds is because almonds had a short crop and almond prices actually went up last year. So that's one of the reasons. If the prices have anyway gone up, it will kind of reflect in the domestic market as well. So Californian almonds were up last year, and that's the reason why there's a price increase over there. Yeah.
Thanks, Jayant. I will ask a couple of questions that shed further light. Wouter, to you. What is it that New Origins should do to get entry into the EU market? Is it just price documentation, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have the same question as a company, because that could make the difference. But there are some answers, I think. Of course, price is very important. We all know that. On the other hand, if you look at the numbers of 24, the export numbers to, or the import numbers in the EU, they were very high. Well, the prices, we had quite a challenging year that year, price-wise, especially when you compare it to the year before. So price is not the only thing. I think overall, retailers, supermarkets, have a very big vote and influence there. What we see is that they are pushing regulations, also being pushed by the EU governmental regulations like CSRD, which is part of the Green Deal. So people need to be more focused on environment, people, and that's also one of the challenges, I think, that we have, because while preparing the presentation, I thought about having a QR code on the screen, asking you as an audience, are you willing to pay more for a sustainable cashew? Because as you could see in Germany, they did some research, 47% of the consumers in Germany are willing to pay more for a brand that's taking care of environment and people. But where can you go? Is it 5 cents, 10 cents, 30 cents? What are you willing to pay more for a sustainable cashew or for other sustainable nuts? So that's
okay.
The question we have too. It's a difficult one.
Well, I think what we should do as an industry is try and address them together. More transparency, more communication, and I think that will probably give us the answers we need. Okay, Wouter, do you think Tanzania is growing fast enough to become the cashew kernel supplier to EU and compete with IVC? Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and the answer, the simple answer is no. Because Tanzania is processing-wise not ready. Ivory Coast did I think a great job. It's said already multiple times. I think also the governmental, let's say, possibilities they provided were also helpful. But that made that big companies, processors, could step into this market. I know that there are big processors thinking about stepping into the Tanzanian market with huge volumes, but to get it done is the next step. And I think Ivory Coast was ready for that. I'm not sure whether Tanzania is fully ready for that. On the other hand, if we look at the crop and the crop size, there are definitely great possibilities to do something there.
Thank you, Wouter. Yoshi, it's for you. Is Japan currently focused only on importing kernels from Europe, or does it also source from India and Vietnam? There's a problem with that question. So, Japan is only importing from India and Vietnam, and there's an opportunity for the African origins to step in there and increase their market share. Japan does not import anything from Europe, at least not as far as cashew kernels are concerned. So that is the answer to that. Jayant, what do you think will be the price outlook for kernel markets going forward in Q1, Q2, and Q3? This actually gives me an idea. Let Jayant give an answer. I also would like an audience poll. Let's say you've got apps, you can all put in your idea what, let's say, September 30th, 2026, what will be the price for Vietnamese WW320s, Ivorian W320s? Indian is off the chart, so no point asking. So we can do an audience poll for pricing, and we'll see. And I've not taken Sivasa's permission for this, but the one who's closest to it gets a free invitation and pass to next year's WCC, wherever it is.
Price outlook. See, I think we all spoke about how demand has kind of gone up in all the regions, whether it's China or whether it's Middle East or Russia for that matter. So I think there is demand for cashews. It's a little bit early today to speak about what the pricing will look like, because we do not have a clear indication on how the raw nut crop is going to look like. So if there are delays, if there are issues with the quality, we might be in for a ride. And today market is at a place where there's not a lot of carryover inventory. So except some of the Tanzania which is sitting in Vietnam, in India, there's no carryover inventory of raw nuts. So without that carryover inventory, if this comes out to be a shocker on the crop, then of course we probably are looking at numbers which are 40-50 cents higher than today. But in my view, the demand at those levels is not sustainable. We have seen when the markets went up in 24, the demand kind of starts plummeting, and then you start seeing markets rebounding. So I think we are in for a decent crop, and the way demand is looking today, I would suggest that this is probably going to be range bound. So where we are sitting today, probably a 10-15 cents up and down is what I will predict for Q2. Q3 is a difficult one because we will have all of West Africa, all of Cambodia, everything would have happened by then. But yeah, I would probably assume Q2, Q3 to be at similar levels, and Q4 probably to be a little bit more bullish. Yeah.
Thanks, Jayant. Yoshi, it's for you. Any import duty structure for cashews from IVC into Japan?
For cashew import, now the government don't order us the import duty because as I mentioned before, in Japan we don't produce the cashew plant, so no competitions about the domestic products. That's why today for almost of all tree nuts enjoy the free duty.
Okay, so no duty, IVC, go. Khusrav, what should somebody do to sell to Russia in order to manage the restrictions by Europe and US ban with the banks? The foreign currency.
So I think it's a 1 million question we say in Russia. Very good question. But yes, there is a restrictions, I think bans for the payments, as everybody knows. But as well as we say, if there is 5 doors are closed, we have another 1 door which is always open. Or we find the key how to open that door. So as of today, we are not facing, to be honest, much restriction for this. because we are using some other third-party sources, so we can pay from other regions as well, from our friendly countries, we call. So for us, there is no restriction. But in general, we have this difficulties, challenge in our market as well. That's correct. So we are open, we can do it with one word, so no restriction for us. Thank you.
What Khusrav is saying is that if you ship him cashews, he'll definitely pay for it. US, no problem. Brings me to a point which we didn't have in the session. One market that's grown tremendously is Turkey. It's acting as a gateway into multiple markets in the region. I think a lot of it is going into the CIS from the European side, whilst a lot of cargo is going into the CIS from China. So you go Africa, China, or Vietnam, China, and then China to Kazakhstan, and the Central Asian countries. Turkey has become a very important market. I couldn't get somebody from Turkey on time to participate in this session, but that's a market to keep an eye open for too.
China has bought more this year. Are they paying better than US? So China is not a traditional buyer for W240. So the two markets are very, very different in their consumption patterns. China imports a lot of A240, which is your with skin SKU. US imports a lot of W240s. Now, China has always paid a premium for the white kernels, and it's very competitive on with skin. So yeah, I mean, the simple answer is yes. The complex answer, because there are layers to this, is that it really depends on, because the markets are huge, right? These are the two largest markets which exist. And there are different sets of buyers, there are different segments of buyers. So you probably pick up the, let's say, the least quality buyer in China, and then you compare it with probably the most premium one in USA. Of course, there's no parity over there. But yeah, in general, China pays probably a little bit better than US for white kernels. On with skin, extremely competitive.
And thanks. Wouter has agreed to do the French question for me. Thank you.
Due to some holidays to France, I can read and understand the question. I won't answer in France, but I think there's translation. So, are customers willing to pay more for sustainable certified cashews? That's already what I just said. That's the difficulty, because the social impact, or what is sustainable. Sustainable has several views on trends, on content. So you can talk about CO2 reduction, better income for workers, for farmers, projects around factories. If we look at what like our Tanzanian factory, we have the Dutch government that is supporting us, or is supporting the area, the Tanzanian area, with a lot of money to support these projects around the factory, to educate farmers, to bring young people into the cashew industry. So if you go hand in hand with the right people and the right governments, then you can make the difference. And we are trying to translate that to the customer. So if you buy in one of the retailers, one of the supermarkets in the Netherlands, the second biggest, you buy a package of cashews, there's a QR code on the back. You can scan it, and then you see the workers or the people in the factory and around the factory of the farmer groups there in Tanzania. And I think to make that translation, and it will cost time, but is a very interesting one. And when the awareness growth or is growing of this end users, these customers, they are willing to pay more. But with a supermarket retailer in between, it's difficult to get your money there.
So can technological innovation improve the quality of cashew nuts? I'll answer this one to the best of my ability. So one of the unique features of cashew nuts from the early days has been that because it's India and there was not much technology in the 70s and 80s, it was automatically an HPS nut, handpicked and selected. So mechanization improved the efficiencies in cost, in production, in volumes, and these aspects. But when it comes to quality, if you say quality is color and crispiness and things like that, I don't think machines could answer that or address that issue. But today, as Sun said in his presentation, if AI is coming into into play and it gets integrated with the current technology that is being used to process cashews, maybe you've got a Miss Lucy robot or a Mr. Harvey robot who will replicate what a human being could do in terms of color, taste, and so on. Yeah, maybe that could work. If somebody else here has got an opinion about this?
Yeah, I'll just probably add to that. So, of course, color is one part of the overall product quality, right? And we've seen that with technological innovations, if you invest them in the right places, you do improve your, whether it's your food safety, whether it's your foreign matter. And we were seeing in the earlier presentation that still the industry has a foreign material problem. So of course, you do improve quality. Whether this whole technology helps with color, it will probably help. But you have to understand one thing is India being India, which still wants white cashews, the rest of the world wants cheaper cashews. That's the reality of the world. We want to believe it or not. And processing cashews the way Vietnam has proven over the last few years is the new norm. So there are very few markets, except probably Japan and domestic India, who's ready to pay extra for those white premium. China was another one, which is a very interesting story, right? It has kind of started going over to the normal cashews for the cheaper prices. So anyway, so coming back to this, I think technology does help. And if you invest in the technology and if you really want to make white kernels, yes, technology will help with that. And it will help with the lowering the production cost as well. We have seen in our own factories that our production costs have become almost, come down by almost, 3 times. Like we are at 30% what we were like 6 or 7 years back. And that's all due to technology. So it does help. But yeah, I mean, so those two were the questions on production cost and quality. And I think that's the thing, that's the name of the game. The way AI sorters are now coming up, is going to change the way cashews are graded in the facilities. And that's something which will stay. This will further bring down the cost. It will bring down a lot of people with automation as well, which we are using. And that also kind of brings the cost down.
Thanks, Jayant. Now, this next question is a very interesting one, even for people like me who are trying to do more business from different origins into the Middle East. So Shaji said to me, Ashok, go and find me lots of cashews in Africa, but I need tins. I go to Africa and say I want tins, and they say we can't do it. So there's this tin flexi gap in the Middle East, and that's a very I think it's a very interesting question. Safwan and Shaji, what can we do? Why is it that the Middle East is still only tins, and can we foreseeably make a transition into flexi packs?
It is very unfortunate that especially in UAE, the customers are not accepting the flexi type of packing, because this market is almost a traditional market, not like European market. You can see in the Mushik Bazaar, the all type of markets is here. So they all want these tins. We imported a lot of flexi cashews, these vacuum cashews this year from Africa, but we found very difficult to sell in the market. One of the other reason is that most of the cashews are re-exporting from here to other countries like Turkey or Iran. So there are many transshipments, many loading and unloading before getting the goods to the final destination. So in that case, if it is packed in a vacuum type of packing, the chances of getting broken pieces are very, very high. So that is a main reason. Another main reason, the customers are not accepting vacuum packings. So this thing will restrict us to do more African cashews. Very difficult for, even I booked some cashews from Ashok, and finally it is not happened because he found difficult to get tins there. So that is the case of the vacuum packing.
That's a valid point. I mean, but if it can be probably proven that flexi-packed cashews can travel to multiple destinations without having breakage problems or whatever, maybe over some time, this could change. The other thing is, somebody here wants to put up tin factories in Africa. That's a business opportunity. The import tin plate from China, tied to the production of cashews in Ivory Coast or Ghana, Nigeria, Burkina, wherever it is. Set up a tin factory and supply tins to the factories there. That way, there's a new business opportunity, and then you can supply cashews in tins to the Middle East, which will pay you a price for it. The next question, Safwan, only 10% of MENA is Africa cashews today. Do you see this growing, and how? Will it replace?
Well, for the African cashew, it's been increasing slightly, mainly for the main processors, which is the professional factories who's capable to handle the vacuum packing. It's the main thing, the vacuum, who's limiting the African cashew to enter. People like the product, like the quality. It's a crispy white in the end. As Mr. Shaji mentioned, the market's still based mostly on traditional roastery who prefer to roast and repack it in the tin. Don't want to invest. It's a small roasters. The other fact is the transportation, which is Iran or Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkey goes to multiple logistic stages, shifted from a truck to a vessel, which has caused the damage on the product. But we see, for example, the packers, the roasters, the big chain, preferring going towards the African more and more.
Safwan, thank you. Thanks very much. And I think this is again reinforcing the fact that we should get into more tin manufacturing in Africa. Maybe the existing factories can get together and create a tin manufacturing facility in the vicinity, so you can all benefit from having access to tins and then shipping it to the Middle East and other markets that need tin packing. Okay, Wouter, why do European packers always prefer to buy from traders and not directly from African cashew processors? This is a loaded question, so all right.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and it is, I'm not sure whether it's always preferred, but I think that a lot of packers need the eyes and the ears of the traders in origin. We like I said before in the presentation, these quality standards, the very demanding consumers and industry is making it difficult if you have to be there. So in your target market, in the Netherlands, for example, or in Germany, and to be present in origin. So if you use the right traders, they can have a perfect role for you in origin. And of course, you have to pay them, but they will also take care of the market, the right positions, the right stocks in Europe. So I think from that perspective, it's easy to use them, and they can fill up the gaps with the stocks they have in the target markets.
Thanks, Wouter. We still have Jardin from China online, so if anybody's got a question for China specifically, please do ask the question. Okay, we've got, all right, listen, we'll have a database prepared on this, and GSR promised a free attendance to next WCC to the guy who's closest to it. If there are 10 of them, we've got a problem, but if it's one of them, it's easy. Okay, so we'll look at this one. All right. Okay, so if somebody's got a question for Jardin, we can ask him. Otherwise, we do the last question I saw for you and me. The question was, what is the reason for the requirement or demand for big bags in Europe? And will that continue to be a trend? Will it become a standard, or What are the benefits?
Yeah, I think that it is a trend, and it started because of quality issues. That was, I think, the main problem. We all know that when you have a leakage in your vacuum, 50 lbs cartons, you will most probably find some infestation somewhere. So if you have, for example, you need 40 cartons, so 40 times a risk on a leakage compared to one big bag, it's quite an easy one, an easy decision to make, especially nowadays with the long shipment, for example, from Tanzania with the closing the Suez Canal. We faced shipments supposed to go within 20 days to the Netherlands, and then afterwards they were shipped to Oman, then afterwards to Malaysia, and then via South Africa to the Netherlands. So we had shipment times of 90 days from Tanzania. If you have a problem with infestation, the problem will be much bigger as soon as it arrives after 90 days. So besides that, most of the factories in Europe are well equipped to be able to use these big bags. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing, and that's where it came from. Another advantage is that looking at sustainability, zero food waste, but also the use of packing materials and the waste we have there is also a very important one for Dutch processors or European packers.
Oh, thanks for that. This poll is meant for the audience, for us, no, I think I'll stay out of this one and get caught. So I will ask the people, my fellow panelists here, for a response to that. Cashew kernel prices, 320 FOB from Ho Chi Minh City, US dollars per pound. Okay, we'll start with Jayant. Olam should have an opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, I have to just pick a number, then I'll probably go 3.2, 3.3, yeah. I'll probably go in the middle, yeah, somewhere.
Very safe, Jayant.
I don't believe in this thing, but...
Do I have to answer this as a buyer or as a processor? Because I think that's the challenge here. Personally, I think, let's say, when we talk of the average at the moment is somewhere, let's say, between 310 and 340, depending on the origin and at the moment. In my opinion, looking at what I heard about crop sizes, forecast, I think there is enough volume to cover the demand, so that might cause prices less than $3 as a buyer saying this.
As a processor, I think that's very evident in what you were saying.
As a trader, I always prefer to the price very high, because whenever the price high, the competitors are very less in the market. But as a normal guy, the price in between 3.10 to 3.2 is a decent level for Vietnam cashews.
That's a fair point for Vietnam cashews. Khusrav, what do you think?
Okay, now it's working now. So like Wouter says, as a perspective, as a buyer, I always want the cheapest price, as always. But so for us, it's less than $3 should be fantastic. But if we are talking seriously, I think objective vision will be from 3 to 3.10.
Safwan?
310 to 330 depends on the origin, as we all say. We hope the best for processors, traders, and consumer in the end.
Fair enough. Yoshi is from the most expensive paying market, so his opinion is very important.
You know, Japanese people have paid expensive prices, so comparing with other grade. So, but the regularly, you know, everybody is, you know, expecting the lower prices. But yeah, around 330 or 40, around that level.
Okay, that's from, these are all kernel buyers and traders. In the audience, I see Sun, a very important processor from Vietnam. I see others from Cote d'Ivoire, other markets. I would like an opinion from the audience. What do you think would the price range be?
As being a big processor and covering all the markets, so each market, the price is different. So for me, USA market, the price should be around, I think around 310 to 320 for US market, because as USA buy the lower quality. So for European market, I think it should be a 230, you know, sorry, 220 to 30. Yeah, for W3, 320 to 330. But for premium market like China, it is about like a 360. That's because this is what I say is lower than last year we sell. You know, it's lower because last year we sell to China more like a 370, 375. But this year maybe about, you know, China will be 360. You know, everything will be cheaper than last year, I think. That's what I think.
Having said that, I mean, look, this is a game of blind man's buff because the crops are not out yet. It's just starting in West Africa, Cambodia, and of course, I mean, without knowing the price availability, crop sizes for the RCN, it'll be very difficult to, you know, predict a price range for kernels. But thanks, Sun, for a supplier perspective. We also need to take into account that the Chinese yuan has devalued from, has appreciated from $7.30 to the US dollar to 6.95 today. The euro has gone from parity to 1.20, 1.19. That's a 20% increase, you know, or depreciation of the dollar. For the Ivorian suppliers, the realization is going to go down because the CFA is linked to the euro, and they were getting 620 CFA to the dollar last year. They're going to get 560 CFA this year. So the export realization is going to be lower. That will affect the pricing as well. So multiple factors. This is an interesting game to play. You know, what do you think? So we all looked into our respective crystal balls, and we've got a price range. And well, time will tell. So, you know, when we come back next year, wherever we gather for the WCC, we will look back on this conversation on the screen, and we'll see whose crystal ball was the clearest.
I am a processor from India, mainly from Kerala. What is the expectation of price for Indian kernels?
Indian factories, Indian processors expect the highest price. Like I said earlier, if it was not for Japan and for Shaji and Safwan here, India would not have an export market. And it's not for any other reason than that the Indian market pays a fantastic price for Indian product. So I think the premium for Indian over African has been about 25, 30 cents a pound on a standard WW320. The premium for African from Vietnamese has been about 15 to 20 cents. So I think the differential from Vietnam to India would be about 40, 45 cents. Asking prices. The reason we're losing market share in the Middle East as well, and to Japan, you know, 30 years ago, Japan wouldn't touch Vietnam. But now they've got 60%. So more Vietnamese cashews are going to Japan than was going just 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So India has to become competitive in the export market. The dollar is going to help at 92 rupees to the dollar. We talked to APIDA, I think. They need to open up trade channels with China, a market that will pay a premium for Indian kernels. So there's going to be a lot of factors that will determine Indian kernel prices, but the most important one is going to be what Indians are paying for Indian kernels. So that will determine, because the export market is not really relevant.
Well, now we are processing this Kerala, we are processing drum roasting, traditionally old mode of roasting.
Right.
Drum roasting only we are using.
I know.
Can you give any premium for that quality?
So Japan used to pay a premium. The contracts used to state drum roasted cashews.
Yes.
They still pay a premium, but the volumes are dropping because, look, in the 21st century, when everything is so competitive, if you have a price differential of 10% for quality, 12%, 15%, If you have 30% premium, it's going to be difficult. No market can tolerate those kind of differentials. That's the truth. Jardin, you're back on screen. Now we could see the face behind the voice. Thank you for joining us. I have a question for you for China. So we saw 40% increase. Jayant in his presentation earlier said that there will be high double-digit growth in the high teens or low 20s. What at Three Squirrels, what do you think would be the growth in the China market in the coming, let's say, in 2026 and over the next 2 or 3 years?
Just for I think just depend on the price. China, as I said in 2023, Chinese market has imported more than last year, 2025. So for 2026, I think if the price can stable or come down, I think the share will be increased 10% to 20.
Okay, so upward trajectory also. Thanks for that. We thank you for your participation, Jardin. Thank you very much for being online with us. If no further questions or comments or whatever, then we can wind the session up. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, my fellow panelists. You're all fantastic.
All right, everyone, a round of applause for this highly informative, one of the most anticipated sessions of the conference. Almost makes me feel like we saved the best for last. Thank you, Ashok sir, for chairing this for us.